Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Veterans for Peace China Working Group and our YouTube channel, Veterans for Peace with China. I'm Michael Wong. I'm the co-chair, along with Michael Kramer here, of the Veterans for Peace China Working Group. And today we have a special guest. Her name is Alice Slater. She's on the board of directors of World Beyond War. She's also the UN NGO Representative for the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation. She's on the board of directors of the Global Network Against Weapons and Nuclear Power in Space. She's also on the board of directors of the Global Council of Abolition 2000. And she's on the advisory board of Nuclear Ban US, which supports the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons. That campaign won the 2017 Nobel Peace Prize for work on the UN Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Alice Slater, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here. We're in fraught times right now. We're hearing about a $1 trillion golden dome in space, and nobody is really talking about the Russian and Chinese proposal they made on the 80th anniversary of World War II in May 2025, asking for better cooperation in many ways, but specifically they criticized the Golden Dome and gave a pledge that they would never be the first to use weapons in space or to put weapons in space. And they begged us to take up their draft treaty to negotiate a treaty to prohibit the use of weapons in space or the placing of weapons in space. And they put a draft treaty into the Committee on Disarmament in 2008 and again in 2114 in Geneva. This is a committee that negotiates treaties, and you need consensus. And the U.S. blocked it. We refused to discuss their draft treaty 2008, 2014. Here it is, anniversary World War II. They're saying it again. And I don't hear our peace movement talking about this. I was telling Michael about it, and he said, well, come and tell us and let's hear about it. But nobody's picking it up. We hear all these new doomsday announcements. We never hear about the offers coming from China and Russia to make peace in the world. And I asked Bill Hartung, he's a very distinguished analysis of the military-industrial complex. Why aren't you talking about it? He said, nobody trusts them. This has nothing to do with trust. This is like they're putting an offer on the table. We could find out soon if it was legitimate. You know, we've actually gone from 70,000 nuclear weapons down to 13,000 with treaties and negotiations and verifications. There was no question of trust. And it's interesting, just a side point, that from the 12,000 nuclear weapons or so that are left on the planet, 11,000 are in the US and Russia. All the other 7 countries have 1,000 between them. That's India, Pakistan, Israel, France, China, England. They have 1,000 between them. And Russia and the United States keep 2,500 pointed at each other, targeted, ready to go. And you really have to know about the wisdom of the East, because the Chinese keep their missiles separated from their warheads. If they want to use a nuclear weapon, they have to screw the warhead onto the missile. I mean, this is like common sense, wisdom of the East. Anyway, I'm really despondent about what Ray McGovern, he was a former CIA agent who briefed Bush and Clinton, and he left. He formed VIPs, Veterans Intelligence Professionals for Sanity. And he's part of the peace movement. And he said, it's not the military industrial complex. It's the Mickey Mat. I said, what is the Mickey Mat, Ray? The Military Industrial Congressional Intelligence Media Academic Think Tank Complex. They're crafting a message of war, and they're making a killing on killing, and they've corrupted the nonprofit groups, because we got a treaty in 2017. We worked our way through the United Nations to say that nuclear weapons are prohibited. You can't have them, you can't use them, you can't threaten to use them. Up till then, we only had the Non-Proliferation Treaty that made promises for good faith efforts for nuclear disarmament. So we get the treaty, we win the Nobel Peace Prize, and right on the heels of this, these huge campaigns are launched back from the brink. No first use. Not a word about abolition. And I actually saw, and they're very well funded, and I saw in a scholarly journal, there's a new word called anti-preneurialism, like, entrepreneurism, antipreneurism. And it means in the nuclear field of nuclear disarmament, they're always talking about steps and steps and steps and never talking about getting to abolition. And they promote one step after another, back from the brink, no first use. I mean, Daniel Ellsberg used to say, no first use. When you walk into a bank holding a gun, you're using it, even if you don't shoot it. I mean, what does no first use mean? Second use is okay. There's like this languaging event. And I hope that the vets will take this up, because I think it's key that there's an offer on the table that we should negotiate for a space weapons ban instead of spending $1 trillion on this Golden Dome. And I don't know how much. I mean, the draft proposal talked about other things, like that we shouldn't have nuclear weapons in other countries. The U.S. keeps nuclear weapons in 5 NATO countries. We're in Italy, Turkey, Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. And that's our nuclear umbrella. And then we have in Asia, Japan's under the nuclear umbrella. This is the greatest hypocrisy. They're always talking about their survivors and their hibakusha. But meanwhile, the government is part of the U.S. nuclear umbrella that will use our nuclear weapons on their behalf. And actually, Russia never had them. For the first time, Putin put them in Belarus during the Ukraine war. But that's a whole other story. I mean, when the wall came down, Reagan met with Gorbachev. And Gorbachev was to let go of all of Eastern Europe. He entered the Warsaw Pact, and he was very nervous about a unified Germany and NATO because they had lost 27 million people. And I also learned that China lost close to 30 million people from the Japanese. China and Russia they're not looking for war. I mean, the United States is like, we're the virgin on the block. What do we have? The World Trade Center, and we created all these wars. I mean, we haven't had that kind of war here. So I think they're much wiser, and we should be listening to them and paying attention to them. And I mean, it's always like that. I learned that Woodrow Wilson sent troops to St. Petersburg during the Russian Revolution to help the Tsar's group against the peasants. And when we formed the United Nations with Russia after we defeated Hitler, Stalin said to Truman, turn the bomb over to the UN, put it under United Nations control. We said no. So Russia got the bomb. It's always the U.S. going the first step. And this total silence, it's not in the New York Times, it's not in the NGO discussion that Russia and China are making this serious offer, I think has to be fixed. And I hope that the veterans can play a role in that. So thanks. I don't think there's much more to say about it.
Thank you, Alice. That's a very helpful presentation, and thank you for that.